goddamn, I love Choo Choo Charles, okay? This game is damn good, and it's more stable than FNAF Security Breach, which isn't saying a lot, but considering that this was made by one guy, it's damn impressive. But since I love this game, I want to uncover all its secrets and solve all its mysteries, which is what we're exploring today, so let's do it. And let me know in the comments what Choo Choo Charles mystery puzzles you the most. And it says supernatural. The possibility of Charles being some form of supernatural entity isn't lost on me, okay? I mean, this thing is a train with giant spider legs sticking out of its body and a face. Plus, you know, the whole two other monsters on the island thing, including a Kirkland brand Slenderman flying ghost. And I mean, like, come on, how else are you supposed to get a giant spider that's shaped like a train? I really don't know what else could turn itself into something else. Like, I don't know anything else that could change its shape. Unless maybe it's like a demon that's just picked two of the worst things on the planet. Spiders are the worst thing on the planet, but then like the Thomas stands are even worse than the FNAF ones. So yeah, like wasn't there a whole Facebook group against this game? Or did I imagine that? That might have just been a dream. But either way, the whole shapeshifter demon angle makes sense given what we're dealing with, okay? As long as it's not like a supernatural shapeshifter, like the show kind of thing, where they can only change into humans, and I think that's a thing, right? Is that a thing? I feel like it is. But I don't know, maybe the archivist that we play as is Another Earth's Sam Winchester who doesn't want kale. In at 9, Hermit Crab. Okay, when I originally proposed this idea, I said that it couldn't be a Hermit Crab situation with Charles because Charles's face is on the front of the train. And then when he gets killed after the Hell Charles fight, the spike goes deep into his face. However, I guess that if the train the creature inhabited had the like internals removed and it was just like the exterior shell, it could be possible that Charles could have inhabited an existing train, but then that would also imply that this guy has quite the long noggin, like a horse. Why the long face? Since, you know, that spike goes deep in and then it continues to force more and more blood out as it goes. So it makes me think that there is more to this than just some being crawling into a broken husk. It would also mean that Charles' original form would look just like the Thomas meme, where, you know, where like the head's coming out of its body and it looks like the most cursed snake of all time, which honestly, it would make sense. In at 8, hatching. Now, the interesting thing about the ending is that while yes, there are more eggs, none of them had hatched, at least until after this Charles is dead. So my question is, what's the deal? Okay, like what's the deal with airline food? God, I sounded weird. Why is it that these eggs aren't hatching until after Charles is dead? And why is it that seemingly only one spider is able to exist at a time? My thinking is that maybe the release of energy is what makes these eggs hatch, since I think in the game they mention that Charles didn't show up until they started destroying eggs, and then as they continued he got into his Hell Charles form at one point, and then that's when Warren stopped. But if Charles didn't show up until the eggs were destroyed, and we don't see another egg move until we destroy them again, maybe that's hinting at the giant beam in the sky being a source of power that can cause the eggs to hatch. Or it just started hatching because it sensed that the current incarnation had died, kind of like a horrific rebirth cycle. But that would also be kind of weird. But I guess it would make more sense, and it could explain other things that I'll get to in a minute. Just stay with me. And it's 7, alien. There's also the possibility of us not understanding Charles because he's not from this world, and in a more literal sense than you would be expecting, unless you were paying attention to the title of this number, because then you'd know. Charles, or the giant spider species that he hails from, could simply be a race of alien that landed on this island ages ago and then were wiped out by whatever tribe was here. And then, much like how people assume the pyramids were made by aliens or like in an effort to worship aliens, they could have made the temple structures that we find throughout the island. They could have had a whole culture or religion surrounding the species until they were turned on or until the humans fought back, which would explain why Charles isn't just roaming around when Warren gets there and he has enough time to actually set up shop. Plus, I mean, aliens is an easy way of explaining anything in this sense. You know, the eggs, the ancient magical technology, why Charles is able to absorb the energy from those eggs. Like, hell, the original original aliens could have made the humans build that temple so that they could absorb the power from their own eggs and become stronger, and then they rebelled because they're like, hell no, we're not gonna let this happen. Who knows? And at 6, Hell Charles. Okay, the actual origins of Charles and how he came to be are also very confusing. You see, the reason they call him Charles is because that's the name of the mining company that's run by Warren. You know, the guy who uncovered all the eggs. But it's not because it's his fault that they're calling it that, but it's because that's literally the train's branding, since the trains are to transport the materials that Warren's mines were digging up. So, you know, they're also Warren's and are therefore branded with the company logo because, you know, branding. Including, by the way, the train that we're using before we start adding any armor to it and it gets covered up. And all the other discarded trains that we can find like throughout the junkyards, like where you get your lockpicks and other various locations like outside mines, they also have this logo on the side of them, which implies that Charles, again, somehow took over or became a copy of the trains used by Warren and us while we play. Yeah, we still don't really know how that could happen, and that's why I was talking about it earlier. And then on top of that, again, he can also absorb the energy from eggs when they're being destroyed, and then when he does, he transforms into an even more monstrous version of himself called Hell Charles. Like, come on, okay, what the absolute This answers none of the questions that I had and only adds more. How does this even make sense? And also, by the way, if you're enjoying this list and want to see more Choo Choo Charles videos, be sure you let us know by hitting like and subscribe. Alright, I'm fine talking about this game more. It's a very nice refresher, and also I love yelling about giant demon train spiders, alright? So if you like it too, let me know, okay? Do it. Plus, it makes me happy. Halfway through into number 5, Island Origins. Now, okay, Charles isn't the only weird thing on this island. Because, like, not only is there a giant demon spider train that's attacking people, but there also seems to be active measures against Charles on the island, and it's there when they arrive. It's not like Warren and his goons built the temple or all the structures they were digging for, so why did whoever was here before build all of this? Clearly, they've had to fight off a being like this before, thanks to that drawing on the tablet. So what happened that caused the island to be abandoned or extinct enough that Warren wouldn't think twice about starting his operation here, and he had enough time before Charles actually showed up to set up shop? And also, if this worked, okay, that also wouldn't make sense because they would have had to fail in order for Charles to show up, but clearly they didn't fail because they fought off the original spider and Warren had enough time, unless Charles was like laying dormant for ages until they unearthed his eggs. But then again, why would he have showed up looking like a train that was used by the mining company? I don't know. My original theory when I was actually playing the game was that the island itself was possessed by an evil entity that Warren was using to make his fortune, kind of like a Betrayal at House on the Hill sort of thing, since in that board game the house that you're playing in is possessed by evil, but that seems to not be the case anymore because again there was like 1,000,000 eggs. So yeah. And at 4, Cycle. This could also have just been horrible timing. You see, since we know that this has happened before thanks to that stone tablet from the lockpicking mission, we know that there should have been a spider on this island when Warren got here, but there wasn't. This could be for any number of reasons, like maybe the original inhabitants fought it off, maybe it got killed by Barry or Slenderman, maybe since they built it, the original humans knew how to use the main temple to kill the beast instead of, you know, powering him up, and maybe the spider wiped out the original humans on the island and then starved because it ran out of food. We can't really be sure, but it could just be that there's also a cycle to these attacks. You see, the egg starting to shake right after Charles was killed doesn't sit right with me, okay? There's no way that's a coincidence. And that got me thinking, why would it hatch right after Charles died? And what would it hatch into? A spider or a spider train? Would it hatch into a little baby? Or would it hatch and then instantly start growing because it absorbed its own energy? And that's when it dawned on me. What if every time a spider dies, a new one is born? And the only reason Charles attacked was because it was released after spending decades, if not longer, in that last cave. Alright, there are train tracks in the cave with all the eggs, so Warren must have seen it, which could explain why he was protecting these 3. But what if killing Charles only bought them another 50 or 100 years? And soon enough, our great-grandson will have to be back on Aranearum just to do it all again. Getting close to the end into number 3, Hell on Earth. Earth in Hell is more accurate. You see, this doesn't seem like anywhere that would reasonably exist on any Earth, okay? Like, I get that it's an island, and it's not close to anywhere major, but also there's no goddamn way the world's military does not know about Charles, okay? If you have as much juice juice as an olive on a plate. The US is going to invade it, a la Gordon Ramsay. So how would they not have seen this island and then like investigated it and then just left it? No, not with a giant demon train spider running around. That would have been the next damn target for any form of weapons test, and they wouldn't have cared about anyone on the island. My thinking is that given that this is a giant train spider that seemingly comes out of nowhere, including the fact that the settlers have the means to stop him, then aren't doing shit about it because somehow you're the only one who's willing to, and the fact that this is an island, meaning that if you get off of it, you're probably gonna have to kill him just so you can get into your boat in peace, that this could just be a simulated world space and you're actually in hell. Whether it's like a Dante's Inferno situation, or maybe it's kind of like Crowley trying to get the demon tablet out of Kevin in Supernatural, I can't really be sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if at some point 2-Star reveals that this is just one of the many layers of hell, and then finally someone, that being us, decided to rebel, or maybe we play as Satan, who just wants to see if we can get anyone to do anything for themselves, but that also discounts the fact that we have to get to the island. But ultimately, in at number 2, Charlie the Choo Choo. Now this is certainly an interesting story, because I originally genuinely thought that the name of this game was Choo Choo Charlie. It was like my own personal Mandela effect, and that's before I even accidentally switched timelines. That's a whole other story. But when looking into things for various Choo Choo Charles videos, I learned of Charlie the Choo Choo, a children's book by Stephen King. Yeah. Charlie the Choo Choo is a book from the world of the Dark Tower. It's a children's book within that universe by Stephen King, obviously, but in our world it's published under the name Beryl Evans. The story was written by King and published in his novel The Dark Tower 3, The Wastelands, and in that novel, the book is found by Jake in chapter 22. The story in that universe is intended to be creepy and to give children nightmares, but honestly, now that I've looked at it a few times, it doesn't. It's not all that creepy. I mean, it's sad, but then it has a happy ending. In the book, Charlie gets abandoned by his engineer Bob in favor of a newer train, and there's a picture, which is I think the most disturbing part of the book. There is a picture of Charlie crying dark oily tears and getting all rusted because he hasn't been used and he's been stuck outside. But in the end, he does get repaired by Bob. But what if he didn't? Okay, what if Bob ended up getting killed before he could finish his weapon to help you fight against him? Oh wait a second. There was a Bob here. One who got killed. Uh-oh. And finally, and number 1, Ancient One. Okay, now, considering how this is a giant train demon spider thing, you'd figure that this is the first time that it showed up, okay? It's literally based off one of the trains that are on the island, so what the hell? The thing is that this isn't the first time that this has happened. Maybe it's the first time that they unearthed the eggs. This is definitely the first time they've seen Charles as a train, but that's not the first time that this has happened. At the beginning of the game, we can get a lockpick set from Daryl. There's a guy at a scrapyard, alright? You pass it on your way to your first mission if you go forward on the track. You then use them to unlock a chest in the back that goons had just thrown into the backyard, and inside is an ancient tablet which is described as a, quote, very old stone tablet that features some strange drawings, which I feel like could be a reference to Skyrim and the Dragonstone, but you know what was off for me was that this ancient tablet had a drawing of people fighting a giant goddamn spider. But it was a normal spider. It didn't look like a train. So clearly this isn't the first time that it's happened, but yeah, and I wouldn't have paid any attention to this. I would have just marked it as a joke, but the game calls it out as a critical item. So yeah, I find that interesting because there's another critical item which I talk about in our other Choo Choo Charles videos, one of which is probably about to pop up on your screen now, so click it. Thanks for watching.